starting point tonight is the South African platinum producer Lonmin, which has cut a lot less jobs than anticipated despite weak platinum prices. Lonmin only formally retrenched 75 employees from the over 6,000 who were supposed to be axed, but 5,108 others accepted voluntary severance packages. Now, on top of this staff reduction, another 1,300 or so have been reskilled and moved to other mines within the company. The Association of Mineworkers and Construction Union, AMCU, has expressed its approval of this restructuring process, but it said it would have been more content knowing that no jobs at all were lost. South Africa's mining firms have cut 47,000 jobs between 2012 and early last year as the industry grappled with soaring costs and a steady decline in commodity prices. Let's dig deeper into this. Julie Shah is live in Johannesburg with more details on this story. Julie, thank you for your time this evening. We've spoken more often than not a lot of times about the 32,000 or so estimated jobs to be at risk in the mining sector. But what about the rest of the formal economy? How many other jobs are at risk?
Well, Rama, as you said, panic has gripped the sector after mining firms announced plans to scale back sharply. And yes, the South African job market is on shaky ground. South Africa faces more than 60,000 job losses this year, according to a report by the Solidarity Labour Union, and job losses could be felt in retail to agriculture and in mining to aviation. And if these predictions are true, it's signaling further trouble for the country's fragile economy, Rama.
Indeed. According to Statistics South Africa, we've seen 6 straight quarters of employment growth from the second quarter of 2014 to the third quarter of 2015. Can that continue?
Well, Rama, government is certainly hoping that trend continues and that they manage to fight unemployment and that there are gains. But as you mentioned, South Africa's weak growth is affecting job numbers, even though employment levels have increased in seven and the 9 provinces between the second and third quarter of 2015, it's still not enough. And even though there were large employment gains in sectors like construction, trade and manufacturing industry, unemployment rate still stands at close to 25%, and the Treasury forecasts that the economy may expand just 0.9% in 2016, the lowest rate since South Africa emerged from a recession in 2009, Rama.
Indeed, these are dismal numbers. Speaking of numbers, though, third quarter last year, agriculture had the biggest annual rise in employment, adding about over 200,000 jobs. But to what extent has the current drought put those jobs at risk?
Well, South Africa is suffering its worst drought in more than a century, and it's taking its toll on the economy. Farms are cutting jobs, and the cost of producing food has increased tremendously. It's estimated that employment in agriculture has decreased by 37,000 in the last fourth quarter of last year. So South Africa we must remember, South Africa is one of the continent's largest producer of corn, and it may have to import 3.8 million metric tons this year to meet domestic demand. And the World Bank believes the drought has pushed an additional 50,000 people in South Africa below the poverty line of $30 a month, Rama.
Indeed. One final question for you, Julie. Transport and trade, these are 2 sectors with the most job losses on an annual basis in the third quarter last year. What caused that decline, and are those factors still at play right now?
Rama, many will argue that China's economic slowdown and financial mayhem are fostering a cycle of decline and panic across the world, and we have even felt it here. Transport and trade are also suffering as a consequence. But there are other factors to consider. For example, South Africa has a domestic labor market struggling to create meaningful employment. There is still a great demand for high-skilled workers. The economy has shed 18,000 low-skilled workers and created 16,000 high-skilled jobs. So many of those who are unemployed now lack the skills, but it could also be because of weak domestic demand, rising input costs and labor disputes. But South Africa's growth remains weak, and it's unlikely to improve anytime soon, Rama.
Indeed, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for that. That's Julie Shah live in Johannesburg with a deep dive into the job market in South Africa.